Welcome to CHTA Live, the Resilience Series, bringing you practical content to support strategies and solutions to guide your recovery plans. My name is Vanessa Ledesma, Chief Operations Officer for the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association. Thank you for taking time to join us. Our topic today is Guest Assurance and Insurance, TripMate Travel Protection Plan. Before we proceed with the session, let's go over a few housekeeping items. All participants have been muted. You're encouraged to submit your questions for the panelists during the webinar by submitting them via the Q&A box. Questions will be addressed at the end of the session. The on-demand video recording of today's webinar will be distributed within 48 hours of this presentation. Our session today is scheduled through 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we hope you're able to join us through the end. We take this opportunity to invite you to our COVID-19 page, where we continue to load information, data, and resources to facilitate readiness, training, and recovery. We do want to highlight our travel advisory section, where we load up-to-the-minute information on destination, as well as CHTA hotel member opening dates. As destinations are announcing their reopening plans, we invite you to join us on Facebook at 9 a.m. on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for Caribbean tourism fireworks, engaging destination spotlights to keep you in the know about what's going on in the region. CaribbeanTravel.com is our consumer-facing platform that is a one-stop shop for consumers to explore and book within our 33 destination partners. Hotel listings on CaribbeanTravel.com are a free hotel benefit for members, and we encourage all to participate. If you're looking for a higher increase in exposure, there are opportunities to feature your property with a travel log. Your property's head of marketing would work directly with CHTA's writer to create a great custom feature on CaribbeanTravel.com. And if you would like to see a peek of some of those travel log stories, we ask that you join CaribbeanTravel.com on our social media platforms. A special thanks to CHTA strategic partners for their continued support of our programs and towards the industry. We welcome your comments and takeaways in our social platforms using the hashtag CHTA Live. Make sure to tag CHTA as shown on the screen. Last week, CHTA, along with regional partners, launched the guidelines for the reopening of Caribbean tourism and travel. These are available to download on the CHTA website and provide detailed guidelines and checklists for various sectors, including ground transportation, Caribbean accommodations, sites and attractions, and food and beverage operations. We've also launched the Caribbean Tourism Health Safety Training Series to support these guidelines as well. Regaining travelers' confidence is high on everyone's agenda. We've been developing and training our teams on new health safety guidelines to address this. However, with so much uncertainty amidst the current situation, prospective travelers are also worried that their dream vacation may be impacted by this pandemic or a natural disaster. Today's discussion will highlight a timely exclusive member benefit CHTA is bringing to you in partnership with TripMate, a global leader in travel insurance. By joining the CHTA member exclusive travel protection plan administered by TripMate, you will be providing your customers with protection of their investment while protecting your revenue. Today's presentation is being led by Leicia Savinetti, Vice President of Sales and Marketing for TripMate. Leicia, thank you so much for joining us, and over to you.
Hi, thank you, Vanessa. Thank you. I just wanted to start by saying thank you to you and the CHTA team for allowing TripMate the opportunity to present today. So I'm going to now share my screen. So today, prior to beginning, I just want to give you a little background about TripMate. TripMate is based out of Kansas City, Missouri, and was recently, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, purchased by Generali. Generali has been in the insurance industry way over 50 years. They're based out of Europe, in Paris, France. And they recently, as I said, purchased TripMate, so they are our parent company. Just a little background about that. What I would like to start with is the agenda. We're going to start with the travel protection plan that's offered, which is we call it the F525C plan number. Yeah, that'll be useful, you'll see as we go further along the line. But on the agenda today, we're going to cover travel arrangements. We're going to cover the traveler, the assistance services offered through Generali, covering the traveler's belongings, any questions you may have, where you can sign up, branding your landing page, and the cost to the consumer. The first section covering the travel arrangements. With regards to plan benefits, the trip cancellation benefit is offered at a maximum benefit of trip cost. The trip interruption benefit is offered at 150% of the trip cost per person. The missed connection is offered as $1,000 per person, and the travel delay at $1,000 per person. So what do we reimburse? For trip cancellation, it protects the non-refundable prepaid cost of the trip in the event your passengers have to cancel due to a covered reason. For trip interruption, it's up to 150% of the trip cost, and it provides reimbursement for the unused land or water travel arrangements for the trip, plus the additional airfare cost to return home if the trip is interrupted for a covered reason. So what we cover, here's some covered reasons for medical and non-medical reasons. However, in the plan, there are a plethora of reasons, and we go into further detail within the plan. So just to name a few: sickness, injury, or death of a traveler, traveling companion, family member, or a business partner. Common carry delays of 12 hours due to strike, bad weather, or mechanical breakdown. Damage or destruction of your home or destination due to a natural disaster. Involuntary job termination. Terrorist attack, hijacking, quarantine, subpoenaed by a jury, and much more. If the passenger is not disabled from travel at the time the travel protection is purchased and the planned payment is received within 21 days of the initial payment deposit of the trip, the exclusion for pre-existing conditions will be waived. Now, I know you're all asking, how does the pandemic fit into this trip cancellation? So if you contract COVID, that would be covered under sickness. So if you contracted COVID, you saw a doctor, you have documentation that you got sick with COVID, you would be covered if you had to cancel your trip because of COVID. Regarding quarantine, I want to be specific on how a quarantine is defined. It is a very, very strict rules. So it's not a shelter in place like everybody has been sheltered in place currently, where we're able to go out and you're able to go grocery shopping. A quarantine is a strict rule. You are indoors for 24/7. You're not having contact with anyone else. So I wanted to just define how that is distinct between a shelter in place and a quarantine. The missed connection and delay of travel provides reimbursement for unused land or water and travel arrangements, plus additional airfare to join the trip if the arrival at the trip destination is delayed 3 hours or more due to a covered reason. By a common carrier delay, again, quarantine, strike, natural disaster, terrorism, or riot. With travel delay, it's $1,000 per person also, which provides benefits for hotels, meals, telephone calls, local transportation expensed incurred if the passenger is delayed for 12 hours or more due to a common carry delay, possibly lost or stolen passports, travel documents, or money, documented weather event that prevents traveler from getting to the point of departure. So when they say travel delay and it says it provides benefits for hotel, usually people aren't always that savvy to read their travel protection plan. So this is not where you go and spend the night at a expensive hotel. You have a limit. So the limit is $1,000 per person. Covering the traveler. The plan benefits for medical expense, emergency evacuation, accident, and sickness and medical expenses is $50,000 is the max benefit. The emergency medical evacuation and repatriation is $500,000. The accidental death and dismemberment dismemberment is $25,000. So what do we cover? Under the plan expense benefits, it's $50,000 per person, and the plan covers a medical sickness and injury that occurs while on the trip. So let's say you fall, your traveler falls, they break their leg, they needed a pin in their leg, but then a month later they're home and that pin has to come out. The insurance isn't going to cover that pin coming out then. It covers what happened on the trip. So the plan reimburses after the passenger's primary insurance. So that means our trip insurance is excess insurance to what your medical benefits may pay for. So whatever your health insurance doesn't pay for on the trip, we would reimburse for that difference up to that $50,000. Emergency evacuation and repatriation, $500,000 per person. We, God forbid, hope that doesn't happen to anyone, but it is available for medical transportation expenses to an appropriate treatment facility, a hospital, or possibly home when required. Reimbursement of emergency evacuation expenses and the repatriation costs. The accidental death and dismemberment, $25,000 per person. It's for death at any time during the trip, or dismemberment anytime during the trip, and 100% of the benefit amount for death and 50% of the benefit amount for dismemberment. And this is more detailed in the plan as well, specific details around that. The next is the non-insurance services, which is Generali Global Assistance and the Global XPI Medical Records. Generali Global Assistance is, again, as I mentioned earlier, Generali is our parent company. They have a global assistance plan that when you have emergency transportation services, God forbid you have an emergency, the first number you should be calling is Global Generali to get assistance from them. They're going to be able to tell you where's a local hospital, how can they help you get to, in the midst of this emergency, they're there to assist you. So they will help with repatriation of mortal remains. They'll assist with emergency medical evacuation and medical necessary repatriation, along with transportation after stabilization. God forbid somebody breaks their hip and they're going to need to be transported. They'll transport them after they have become stabilized. Their travel support services, like I said, they're available 24 hours, 365 days a year. Call them on Christmas, call them on Easter, they are there. They can provide advanced emergency and medical assistance, advanced assistance with replacement medication, locating lost or stolen items. They do a million different things. They also offer a concierge service. Most importantly, again, the medical part of it, if something happens, if you broke a tooth and you needed a dentist, you could call them and they'd give you a referral. They have about 35 to 38 different centers around the world. So that's why they're able to have people available 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. The Global XPI, which is a repository basically for your emergency medical information. You would visit the www.globalxpi.com website. This is a free service that's offered. You as the customer would fill out your medical history, the previous treatments, your medications, allergies, and your physician's information. This is absolutely a wonderful service. If you're traveling and God forbid something happens to somebody and you are with them, you're their traveling companion, they could tell you to reference the Global XPI and you'd be able to give that to your physician. So if you're traveling with someone who possibly takes heart medication or they're a diabetic and they need insulin, but this would be the perfect thing to give the physician so they'd have a background on the person. God forbid they were allergic to penicillin or something, and so they wouldn't be treated for that. Next is covering the traveler's belongings. The maximum benefit for baggage and personal effects is $1,000 per person, and for baggage delay, it's $500 per person. So what do we cover? We cover lost, damaged, or stolen baggage and personal effects during a trip. $300 limit per item for clothing and other personal effects, and a $600 total limit on jewelry, watches, and cameras. We don't cover iPads, computers, cell phones, PDAs, money. We don't cover items like that. However, if you do decide to bring your really expensive camera on vacation, and it's a $3,000 camera, they're only going to cover it up until that $600. Baggage delay will reimburse for additional items purchased up to the plan if your luggage is delayed more than 24 hours. So if you're stuck more than 24 hours, we don't expect you to stick it out. We understand if you're going to need toiletries such as shampoo, pajamas, a toothbrush. So make sure you keep all your receipts. And what would happen is if they have all their receipts, they'll be able to be reimbursed for anything if we're able to document that delay that took place for more than 24 hours with their baggage. So some useful information and questions. Here is where you could view the actual plan documents that go into specific detail about each coverage we just went over. You would go to www.tripmate.com. You'd click on the documents where you see on the left by that red arrow. And on the bottom right, you would you'd submit your plan number, and then you'd be able to view the actual documents. Now, once you have your travelers who have purchased the plan, now they come back to you. Possibly you want to direct them to report a claim. They lost their baggage or they were sick on their trip. You would direct them to www.travelclaimsonline.com. Then it would walk them through. It would ask them, choose the method in who. Oh my God, excuse me. You would have to choose the claims being reported. So you would be the claimant. You would choose whether it's electronic communications or you would decline electronic communications. Electronic communications means they would communicate with you through email and possibly include electronic checks if you were to be getting paid from TripMate. Declining the communications would mean it would go through the U.S. Postal Service. You would enter your plan number on that page and you would hit continue, and it would walk you through how to fill out the claim. So here we posted a couple of different questions that we usually say, these are the questions that you would refer back to TripMate. Is my Kindle Fire covered if it's stolen during my trip? I'm a diabetic. Am I covered if I have a medical issue while traveling? My mother-in-law is having hip replacement surgery. Am I covered if she's not well enough for me to leave on the trip? Now, we know you'll be explaining the travel insurance to certain people who are calling. We would just suggest that you offer for them to call TripMate, because sometimes the questions aren't as simple as they seem, and we'd be able to answer them just a little bit better. So there is no erroneous information being provided to the traveler. So here is what the Travel Protection Plan membership agreement information looks like. I just posted this so you would have an idea of what it looks like. I believe you'll be seeing this from CHTA, and you'd be able to fill out the document. If you needed any assistance, you could always call myself. You'll have my information at the end of the presentation, or you could call the number at the bottom and any one of us would be able to assist you. Once you'd be signed up, what we're able to do is brand the page where your hotel would be landing. So we would provide you the link for your hotel, and once we'd be able to set you up with your own branding page. And what we would need from you is a Vector EPS logo. So you'd be able to provide that to us, and we would be able to set that up within a week or so of once we have you set up as an individual hotel on the CHTA platform. So once the consumer has gone to the website, once they've seen your logo, on that page, there's a spot where they're going to check off where they're traveling to, how much does it cost? Well, in the background of all that is what is the cost to the consumer, right? You're wondering how much does it cost for them and how much will it be for them to purchase the trip? So in the background, it calculates that if they're age 30, it's based on age and rate of your percentage of your trip cost. So from 0 to 30, it's 5%. From 31 to 65, it's 6.5%. From 66 to 75, it's 8%. And from 76 plus, the rate of the trip cost is at 10%, which makes sense, right? The younger they are, the less risk there's going to be of something happening to them. So the older they are, the greater the risk. So that is the cost per traveler. Now on the website, it does offer you the information to put yourself in, and it does offer them to add guests. So if they're traveling with 3 or 4 people, it'll give them a total dollar amount for all the guests, but the insurance is still per person, because a lot of people get confused. They get a large number. Let's say the insurance costs $300 and it was for 3 people, excuse me. The insurance is still per person, even though the quote was for 3 people. So last but not least, here is my contact information in case anybody needs assistance in signing up. My name, my phone number, my email address, and I am going to hand it back over to Vanessa. I hope that everyone is able to understand what I had presented. I wish you all a wonderful return back from this pandemic, and I hope your numbers soar and that we can assist in the revenue piece of it. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Leicia. And as expected, we have a number of questions. Renee has been answering some of them, but for the benefit of everybody that is in attendance, we'll go through them as well. A few things I would like to highlight with regards to the sign-up process. Marketing materials are provided as well to the hotel so that they can include the reference that they have travel insurance as part of their booking offerings. And also, and it's one of the questions that we've had a few times, the insurance is extended only to US travelers. That's correct?
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. So let's go through some of the questions that we have here. So we'll start with those that Renee has responded, and Renee, feel free to jump in as well. Suppose COVID positivity occurs during overseas trip, covered then? And the response for that is if the sickness occurs during the trip. Example, test results. Coverage applies for trip interruption and medical expenses, and we recommend contacting the emergency assistance company to guide you. So it's pretty much with respect to when does it. You've mentioned as well that if it's COVID is covered under sickness. So
correct.
Exactly. I think we have a few on those. So give me 1 second. Okay, let's go through a few others. With respects to the quarantine. Is the quarantine coverage for both at trip destination and home location that prevents them from traveling? The short answer is yes. Quarantine must be strict 24/7 quarantine order by a medical professional or government. Shelter in place and stay at home orders do not qualify for strict quarantine. And we are happy to provide this coverage as some competitors do not, since COVID is a known risk. The next question. Some of our destinations are requiring a negative COVID test within 72 hours of arrival at the destination. Would the traveler be covered if they are unable to acquire the necessary test and are thus denied entry into the destination? The response, unfortunately, no. The plan provides coverage for a sickness that occurs during coverage. a positive test of travel of the travel can be covered. Not being able to acquire the test is not covered. If they contract COVID during a trip, will the insurance pay to repatriate the guests to be treated back in the US? The answer, yes. We view COVID under the terms required for a covered sickness. Pre-existing condition exclusion is waived. Treatment required, please contact emergency assistance to determine coverage and benefits. If a person is on the island and tests positive for COVID, does the insurance cover the visitor to medevac off the island? A little bit following up on the last one. And the family. So yes, that is included. And let's go through a few of the open questions. Just to confirm, the plan is only available to US residents. How are claims dealt with? Does the policy holder have to pay for all of the expenses up front and then wait for reimbursements? Or are any payments settled directly, such as medevac costs?
So Generali Global Assistance would contact your health insurance company to see if they were going to assist. If not, it would be handled by them. They wouldn't put someone on the spot where they had to be stuck there if there weren't availability for them. So they would coordinate with them to assist getting them paid so they could, potentially leave the hospital, or so they weren't stuck there.
Oh, okay. Can a tourism association or a company do a blanket coverage for any of the products? For example, travelers' belongings, to cover guests who stay at several accommodation venues.
So I'm not sure I understand that question. They're looking for like a group plan or a group pricing?
I think it's more along the lines of if a person stays at various venues, at different hotels during their stay, but also I would imagine to include outside of the hotel experience. So, if they purchase an attraction ticket or some of the other items that they may have incurred in terms of for their trip.
So the insurance would cover whatever the expenses were for that trip. Not necessarily. I'm not sure I'm really understanding that question. Renee, are you understanding it the way I'm understanding it? Like, no? So it would be whatever they go ahead.
Yep.
We're not hearing you.
We're not hearing Renee.
Sorry.
Not yet. And if anything, we can.
Sorry, we can table it.
What we'll do is all of the questions are being recorded, as well as the answers that have been written. So we'll make sure that we distribute these afterwards. And whomever posted that question, it was noted as anonymous. So if anything, if you can just send a note, and then we'll definitely put that.
Sorry about that.
We have a reference with regards to the cost based on percentage will make this not cost effective for guests booking an all-inclusive resort where the ADR is extremely high.
The way it's set up currently is through the percentage. So I'm not sure if that is something we can look into for them, but we'd have to get back to you on that. But currently this particular plan is set up as with age and percentage of trip cost.
Okay, and understanding that the plan is currently only available to US travelers, are there any products that you offer that would apply or be able to be offered to other markets?
Again, we do have other products that if somebody wanted to discuss that further, if you're saying that
from Canada,
European guests, or yes, we could definitely discuss that, and that is something that could be available. Yes.
Perfect, perfect. Just to clarify on the emergency evacuation cover, it is not necessary for them to be hospitalized for medevac cover to operate. They can request that just by being COVID positive. So
Meaning if they contracted COVID and wanted to be medically evacuated back to, I would think that it's an option. It would probably be within Generali's global assistance to help facilitate that and make that decision of whether that was the best decision at the time.
Okay, just following up with regards to the cost, to the insurance cost, it is per person, so it would have to be purchased by each one of the individuals that would be that will be traveling.
Right. So what would happen is when you click on the website and you enter your information, again, you would enter, let's say you're traveling with you, your husband, and 2 children, you would enter the 4 people, and even though the amount, whatever that amount of money is, you would pay the travel insurance, and again, it's per person. So that $500,000 evacuation is per person.
Okay. And then how is the travel cost calculated and documented?
So when they log into the system, how is the travel cost? That would be, they would be providing us, where it's, I guess, on an honesty program, right? So if they're traveling and they want to enter, the trip is costing me $2,500, then they would enter that information there and it would walk them through the process. So we don't ask for documentation, depending on how you're entering the information, it's based on that.
Okay. And then just to follow up, definitely questions with regards to the cost. Let me just read here. So would the percentage be based on the per person cost of the trip and then cover that person rather than the cost of the booking? Because with an all-inclusive, it's across the board, irrespective of the number of people that are staying in. So I guess it's a little bit more explanation.
Yeah, I think, and again, if the percentage of the trip is so high for an inclusive, it might be something we could look into and see how that works.
And definitely, we would strongly suggest that you get in contact with Leicia just to get a little bit more clarification and maybe explaining what the rates are and all of those things to kind of like provide that. With regards to the previous question about the blanket coverage, so it was if a guest is staying at several properties at different times and not in one trip. So that was the intent of the question.
Oh, I see what they're saying now. Okay. It would honestly be each individual trip. So I don't know if we have like a blanket policy that would cover someone, like almost like a frequent flyer, I guess it sounds like, right? That you would accumulate some sort of discount, or I don't know about that. I mean, I guess it's something we could check, but pretty much it's per trip. Like you're going to insure yourself per trip.
Definitely. And just if you can just go over again the trip cost, because we've gotten a number more questions with regards to the trip cost and large families and how does it apply?
Okay, so when they log into the system, they're going to see, it's going to ask them their age, and then it's going to ask them how many travelers, and then it asks them trip cost and what state they're from. They would enter this information and it calculates it per the little box offered 0 to 30 is 5%, 31 to whatever was 6.5%. So it's basically the percentage of the trip cost that is the price per the insurance.
Okay, and it is per individual.
Correct.
Okay. Now, what about family members that are unable to travel in the medevac? Would the insurance cover those left behind if they need to cut their vacation short?
Yes. Well, I shouldn't want to say yes. Each situation is going to be different and is going to need to be evaluated by the claims examiner. However, they do, they wouldn't leave like kids stranded. They wouldn't leave the family stranded. So I believe that it would cover the family traveling back with, it wouldn't leave somebody behind. If you have traveling with a travel companion, it's gonna, the travel companion is gonna be able to travel with you.
Okay.
That's
And
correct. Are you able to hear me now?
yes, we can.
Yay, there you are.
Yay! Thank you so much. I can help Leicia out a little bit now, but just to jump in there, Leicia's correct. So each person has to purchase the travel protection plan. So as long as each person in the family on the trip purchased the plan, then the coverage is for you, your travel companion, or your family member, so immediate family member. And that's for cancellation or interruption. So if one person is sick, everyone would be able to come home as long as they are either a travel companion or an immediate family member and purchase the plan.
Perfect. Okay, we have a few more questions here. If client contracts COVID on the trip and are not hospitalized, will they be left on the island or will they be repatriated home? If they must remain, will their additional accommodation costs be covered?
So the initial answer to that is yes, but to the maximum benefit of the trip interruption. So they would extend the coverage, but it would still meet a maximum of the trip interruption cost.
Okay. And somebody has been already checking the information online. So they want a little bit more explanation as follows. Medical expenses clause 2 indicates that cost of a cruise ship, cabin, or hotel would be covered if recommended as a substitute for a hospital. There is no definition of hotel. Would hotel also include villa? Thinking here about a traveler testing positive for COVID once on their trip and having mild symptoms, which would result in them requiring to stay in quarantine, but not necessarily sick enough to be hospitalized.
So there actually is a definition in the plan documents under trip interruption that addresses that exact question. I don't know the exact wording, but I want to say that yes.
Yep, I can jump in here, Leicia.
Great, thank you, Renee. Absolutely.
Yeah, and guys, Leicia's doing a great job. I have 20 years of experience in operations and in claims department. So just jumping in here when it gets a little hairy or detailed. Yes, we would consider a villa instead of a hotel, but this would have to be, ordered as a substitute for the hospital under that medical expense clause. But another way for us to look at it is that the person is quarantined. So there's also coverage under travel delay for being quarantined. So if it's not ordered to replace a hospital, because sometimes a doctor may say, no, we're not replacing the hospital. You just don't require hospitalization. You're not ill enough to require to be admitted. Usually replacing a hospital room with a cabin is just because there's not enough beds on a cruise ship. And so they're literally replacing the cabin with a hospital. Instead of a hospital, they'll have the IV there or anything that the patient may need. I think this question is a little bit more directed to being quarantined. You're not sick enough to be hospitalized, but you have COVID, and so you're being quarantined. As long as all of that occurred on the trip and it is strict quarantine, not a shelter in place, you're not going to the store during the day, you're not walking with your mask outside, you have strict quarantine orders by a doctor or by a government, then you'd look at that coverage under travel delay. And there is coverage for hotel and meals up to that maximum travel delay benefit.
And just to follow up there, this is from the same person that posted that question, but travel delay has a $100 per person limit. Medical expenses and trip interruption has higher limits.
Correct. So for it to fall under that medical expense, it would literally have to be a replacement for a hospital room. That's usually what we see is the hospital cannot take any more patients. Yes, you do need to be hospitalized, and they're going to do something else, like send a nurse to your room. So it has to be under those strict guidelines of we're replacing this for the hospital room. If you're just, not sick enough to be hospitalized, that's different.
Okay. To calculate the fee, how do you calculate room charge for trip costs for double or triple sharing? Do you calculate the percentage from split room charge?
Well, it would, Renee, I would think, like I said, you're putting in the amount of money of what you're paying for your trip. So if the total of the trip is $4,000, it's going to calculate it from there. Does that make sense? Like, okay.
Yeah, so you're going to enter your per person trip cost.
Okay.
And not the entire, so if you have a villa that's $10,000, you're going to divide that by the number of people staying in that villa, whether they wish to be insured or not.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So if you have 5 people in a villa, the villa is $10,000. You're going to divide that by the 5 people. Hopefully, you're going to insure all those 5 people because that's the only way you'll recover. If a trip cancellation occurs, is if you insured each individual person. So you'll take the full villa cost, divide it by the number of people, and then insure each individual person. You might have one person that says, I don't want to pay the extra amount for the premium. Then they're taking the risk on you not getting that full villa trip cost back.
Okay.
In the event of a covered claim.
Okay. Would you consider an approach from a resort considering the full inclusion of insurance within its room rates, enabling it to offer a guaranteed repatriation to its guests without them having to contribute further?
So guaranteed repatriation. So are we asking if that would be paid for in advance versus having to pay and claim?
I would imagine.
That sounds.
I would say so.
I will answer that way. Okay. So so most of the expenses would be you pay for them and then you submit a claim upon return home. For example, your baggage is delayed or you have to incur additional hotel night. We're not going to call the hotel and put it on our credit card, or we'd guide you, but you would need to pay and claim, save the receipts. For something like return tickets, return airfare, and evacuation, or medical expenses, contact our emergency assistance company. They determine, yes, indeed, you meet all of the qualifications, you've been treated, this did occur on the trip, and we will prepay when it's a covered event for flights to return home.
And yes, it was prepaid. That was, but let me just give in.
So yes, but for airfare, it has to be a covered sickness. So we can't necessarily pay for return airfare, let's say if you have a weather event, because the event is happening live and you would need to contact the emergency assistance company, have them determine that it's a covered event. But when it's a covered sickness, you're going to have documentation of that positive COVID test. You send that to the emergency assistance company. They see it and say, yes, this matches our coverage. And so we can prepay for your flight to return home.
And the question is, this particular property is looking into building the insurance over into the room rates.
The insurance needs to be elected by the participant. It cannot be excluded. They need to have the option to remove it, or the option actually needs to be opt-in. So you
But you
cannot
can't,
include it.
you cannot just include it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Unless you're purchasing it on everybody's behalf, on every single person, which is not the case here.
Okay. By any chance, how long does it take to organize the evacuation of a COVID patient via Medivac?
I don't know if we have that answer.
You may take that one, Leicia. So
Sure.
I actually worked with our emergency assistants approving cases for more than 10 years. So the answer to this varies widely. So it all depends on when the physician releases the person to fly. And that's what we're waiting on. For the physician completes fit to fly document. And so it's really up to the medical professionals to indicate that you are fit to fly. So when we receive that fit to fly, then the emergency assistance makes the arrangements immediately.
Okay.
They also have their medical team review the documents because they're very accustomed to making flight arrangements that not all local physicians may be accustomed to what happens when you raise your elevation and that. So every case is reviewed by a medical professional at the assistance company as well.
Okay. We are reaching the point that we've allotted for the session. We have about 11 minutes. So I want to allow this opportunity for any other further questions that may have not been answered. We will provide, along with the video recording, all of the questions that were previously answered in writing so that you have them as reference. There is also, if Alexis can put on the chat, the link to the page on our website where we have all of the information with respect to the plan. So just for reference, this is where you go to request more information, but it also includes a full coverage summary that you are able to view, as well as detailed FAQ that goes into the specifics. Some of them were covered today. So we'll certainly invite you to look at that page for further information, and as well the contact for Leicia will be available there. We've received a few questions about is there any financial benefit for hotels offering this service. So Leicia, if you want to start, and then I'll kick in as needed.
Yes, there is a percentage that for every person that you sell to, there is a percentage of the cost that will go to you and a percentage of the cost that goes to CHTA. And that is something you can discuss with CHTA.
So as this is a member benefit, we have a sliding scale, and that incentive is being divided between CHTA, the National Hotel and Tourism Association, as well as the member properties. For a limited period until August 30th, we're making this exclusive member benefit applicable to hotel properties that are not CHTA members. That's only through August 30th. However, the requirement of being a member of your National Hotel and Tourism Association applies. This is so that your property can receive that financial benefit. If you are not a member of CHTA or your local hotel and tourism association, we recommend you do so. You can still contact TripMate, but that arrangement is specifically for CHTA and NHTA members, and the incentive percentage will vary based on your membership status with CHTA. So that information will be posted on the website for reference. But certainly we encourage all of you that are interested in providing this benefit that will not only protect your revenue, but will also protect the investment of the consumer to act quickly so that you can get all of the documentation and get your booking site ready to be able to add this to your booking platform and be able to offer it to your customers as soon as possible. Gonna check if there are any other questions. In the meantime, Leicia, Renee, any further thoughts that you want to provide as we are wrapping up?
No, we just want to thank you for having us. We are very appreciative. We hope that this will re-kickstart the plan for you guys, and that you'll hopefully see some revenue from this, and it'll be helpful to all the hotels and yourselves. And of course, to cover travelers.
Exactly. No, I just want to thank everybody for their time. I know there's a couple outstanding questions. We will continue to answer those, as you indicated, Vanessa. And one of the questions is if we could share the information in writing and where they can obtain the plan documents and all of that.
So,
but I just, go ahead.
No, you can wrap up. Sorry.
You know, I just want to thank everybody and let you know that, you know, there's a lot of attention on travel protection at this time with COVID and different travel regulations. And this plan does not have a pandemic or epidemic exclusion. There are, you know, many plans out there in the market that do have an exclusion, or they'll indicate that COVID is a foreseeable event, which is not the case in this plan, as long as, you know, it's diagnosed while your coverage is in effect. So as those questions arise, though, please do not answer them yourself. This is definitely meant to be informational for you, but I know you can get yourself in trouble because you go down rabbit holes of different scenarios, and you know, we have to make sure that people have the pre-existing condition waiver and those things. So please refer those questions to us. We're happy to help your guests walk through and navigate through quarantine and COVID related questions.
There's one other thing I wanted to add. I'm sure you all wonder how many people do attach the insurance. Usually it's like a 30 to 40% people will take the insurance. So if you have 100 people, you're gonna sell it to 100 people, about 30 to 40 people will be buying the insurance.
Are those stats pre-COVID?
Actually, yes, they probably are pre-COVID. I think they are. So that would probably mean it will go up, if anything, right? Because most people want to have some sort of coverage now.
Exactly. And I also want to highlight that even though everybody is thinking about travel insurance because of the pandemic, but this plan would also cover any other reason why travel is interrupted, which would include if there is natural disaster as a hurricane or travel impediments and things like that. So certainly it is a great benefit that you are offering to your traveler across the board, not specific just for the pandemic. But we encourage everybody to look at that at our landing page with the information on the plan, review the FAQs that are noted there as well. We will be uploading this video recording as well as the Q&A of those questions that were answered in writing on that same page as well, because I think they will be beneficial for those that were not here. But review all of that information, and we strongly encourage you to connect with the TripMate team to inquire further and to start getting ready to have this product added to your booking platform. So with that being said, I want to thank Leicia and Renee for joining us today and providing insights into this very important and timely topic. To those that are joining us, next week we have 2 sessions as part of our Caribbean Tourism Health Safety Training Series. On Tuesday at 11 a.m. at 2 p.m., Recreation and Entertainment, Sites and Attractions. And on Wednesday, our English session at 11 a.m. on Food and Beverage Service. CHTA Live, it's taking a 1-week break next week, but we encourage you as well to visit our website for additional resources and also for recordings of previous CHTA Live webinars, as well as previous webinars within our Tourism Health Safety Training Series. As a reminder, You will be receiving a copy of this video recording within the next 48 hours. And at the end of the session, there is a link for a survey, which we ask that you complete so that we can get your feedback in terms of how we can make this CHTA Live series better. Again, thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to connecting with you next week at one of our sessions. Have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.
Thank